Happy Fantasy Friday. It's time for book club. We are Lindsey,
Kelly,
and Katharine, and this is the Banner and Bookmarks podcast. We are three book besties diving into romanticy with unhinged theories and a bit of spice.
Heads up, this podcast contains spoilers. If you would like a spoiler-free introduction to the book, go back and listen to episode 1, our world-building episode for this series. But for now, we will be covering all things Quicksilver, and it will be absolutely full of spoilers.
So pour yourself a drink, come escape reality with us, and let's talk about books.
This week, we're going to be going over chapters 10 through 14. So let's get into those summaries. Lindsey, would you like to start us off with chapter 10?
Absolutely. Chapter 10, Crumbs. Saeris, once again, has to tell Kingfisher that there is no eating in the library. After a grumpy-ass Kingfisher and a reluctant Renfis leave, Saeris, Everlane, and Saeris have a conversation about the history of the alchemists, Madra's ascension to the throne, and Fae ages. Kingfisher comes back to escort Saeris to the forge for the rest of the day, and the enlightening conversations continue. Kingfisher eventually tells Saeris to hold out her hand, and he closes her grip around some... Wait, this burns. Quicksilver? Ouch. Also, is it speaking to Saeris? Anarathmore, Anarathmore, Anarathmore! Then Saeris decides the only way to get back at Kingfisher for that is to punch him in the face.
Chapter 11, Swallow. Everlane is slightly annoyed at Saeris for being mean to Kingfisher, and she explains their sibling relationship. After Call Me Lane leaves, Saeris admits to herself that she can now hear the Quicksilver at all times. Kingfisher comes in and a bit of sexual banter starts to happen between the two of them. Admittedly, I do enjoy when a female kneels for me, but in this particular case, and Saeris, Faye can smell when you're turned on, so you might want to take it down a notch there, girl. Anyways, back to the library they go for some more research. Actual research.
Chapter 12, Box. Saeris walks into the forge and is immediately attracted to the sweating, muscled Fae male that is Kingfisher. They banter like crazy, but Kingfisher does let one truth slip. He is an oath-bound Fae, which means he cannot lie. Saeris doesn't really think much of it, but we do. They continue with some childish banter, then something scares the crap out of Saeris. It's a box! It proceeds to bite Saeris, and Fisher wants to kill it, but Saeris says no. They go back to working with the Quicksilver, but somehow they end up making out. What? How did that happen? Then he dematerializes into a blur of black sand and smoke. First, Shadow Daddy alert.
Chapter 13, Duress. Saeris takes off through the castle, going down, 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 trying to find a Quicksilver pool. The Quicksilver starts to speak to her again, showing her the way. She finds her way to it, but before she can step into it, Kingfisher stops her. He knows that while they were making out, she stole his relic so that she can travel through the Quicksilver, and he is pissed. Saeris tells him that she just wants to check in on her brother, and Kingfisher makes her a deal, a blood oath. Kingfisher will go try and get her brother, and in return, she will help him in any way she is asked and do what she is told. She agrees, and Kingfisher goes into the pool of Quicksilver, telling Saeris to close it behind him, wait an hour, and then open it back up. After an agonizing hour or so, Saeris reopens the gate, and Kingfisher emerges with a human male. Except it's not Hayden, it's Carrion fucking Swift.
Chapter 14, The Fine Print. Whoopsie, Kingfisher didn't bring Hayden back. He brought back Carrion Swift. Unfortunately, Saeris should have read the fine print of her blood oath. He didn't agree to bring Hayden back. He agreed to try. And try he did. Kingfisher decides that this is the moment to flee from the palace, and Saeris has to oblige. Kingfisher and Saeris and an unconscious Carrion slung over Kingfisher's horse, love that image, leave on horseback.
I love those summaries. Now let's dive in. Chapter 10 starts out with them back in the library, and the first thing that is screaming in my head, crumbs! Saeris is the funniest little character to add a bit of humor to this whole exchange. Like, everybody's serious, and he's just like, would you like to eat over the window so you don't get crumbs everywhere?
I love it. We do get a little bit of the gods talk in this chapter. Not a ton, but Everlane says, or Saeris asks Everlane, where did the gods go? And then Everlane kind of tells her, like, oh, they set off on a pilgrimage. We'll talk about it another time. So I think it's an important quote because, again, going back to our last episode where we had this long conversation about the gods and their role in this book, we see here just a little tidbit of they're gone. They've been gone for a really long time, but not too much information, just enough to keep them fresh in our minds.
Yeah, we know that they're going to come back. I think this leaves the door open for us and it makes you question what's going on with them. So I think it was very smart because they definitely come back in a big way at the end.
And this is the chapter that brought up the 3 branches of alchemy. So when we did our world building episode and we talked about the 3 branches, you know, the Fae that sought to discover the path to immortality, Fae who sought to create and invent by transmuting metals, and those that want to cure illnesses, diseases, the such. That's the chapter here where we learn about that.
And is it Rusarius that points it out, or is it Everlane? I can't remember.
I think it
Is
was
it
a
Rusarius?
combo of both because she's like, what's alchemy?
Yes, she kind of has no idea what's going on. And we did talk a lot in the last episode, too, about the fact that Saeris is likely the second kind of alchemist, the one who transmutes metals. But this does beg the question, what about the other 2? Will we see those characters later? Will Saeris actually discover that she has these powers? Because we do get either Renfis or Lorith say it later on in the book that she is the most powerful alchemist ever recorded based on something that she does later. So I have a lot of theories. Part of me thinks that maybe she has the capacity for all 3, but curious what you guys think.
I totally agree because I think that as our FMC, obviously there's got to be something special about her that makes her different. And I think that as she grows, she's going to learn more. Like it's a natural character development for her and a natural character arc for her powers to grow and discover those powers. And that's a really natural way to do it.
Totally agree.
Only thing that I would say to negate my own point that I just made is remember at the end when Malcolm says that she has all of the elements. So he says she has Quicksilver, Brimstone, I think Earth, Fire. So that's also another way that we could see her powers potentially growing. But either way, I think it's going to be connected to the 3 sets of alchemy. Either way.
Does anybody find it strange, though, that alchemists were around for thousands of years and nobody wrote anything down? The alchemists are extinct. They don't know how to transmute metals. They don't know how to do relics. They don't really know the inner workings of Quicksilver. Why did nobody write their shit down? Is that their own hubris? We live forever. We'll just always know because somebody will be there to teach us. There's nothing written down about that. And I just find it so strange. I wonder if it's like somebody rewriting history and destroying all these records because it just seems too strange.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think there's a potential for some foul play with things getting deleted or things being stolen and hidden. I also think it's possible that there was such a rich history of passing things down that it could have truly been that we don't write things down because you're not supposed to write these things down and you pass it on by word of mouth, and they really didn't think that it was going to be extinct. So I think it could be either. I'm excited to see which, or maybe a third none of the above option that Callie Hart brings us into.
I also want to point out the quote in this section where they talk about, along with the other realms, its pathways connected and all manner of chaos ensued afterwards. And just pointing out the word chaos here because we do meet the god of chaos later. He's the only one. So that quick callback to that word there is, it might not mean anything, but it's just interesting as we're getting a lot of information about alchemy, that word's brought up.
And it was funny, when I was reading this chapter in particular, I was still confused at this time of, is realms like different countries, right? I wasn't really sure what a realm truly meant. Like, did it mean different planets in the universe? And I believe it's in the next couple of chapters, they do confirm that realms truly are like different worlds and everything. But at this point, I was kind of like, I don't even know what a realm is, like what it's defined as in this kind of universe.
And maybe like as I think about it, we talk about they haven't written down how to transmute it, but Saeris also finds out, don't forget, that the way to transmute it is just to talk to it. At this point, we're shocked because we're thinking that there's some recipe or something, and she goes through all these recipes, but they might not have written it down because it was easy as we just spoke to it.
Right. And you don't know what they're going to ask for because it is a sentient thing.
Yeah.
And so it's talk to it, see what it wants, negotiate. You got to be good at this skill. There's nothing else to write down.
It's
That's a good
almost
point.
like they were looking for a harder answer, and it was just that easy.
Give it
the
a
whole
joke.
time. Yeah.
Sing
Give it
it
a
a
joke.
song.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually funny you say that because I made a point of writing it down. I was looking back at my notes later, and I think it's in one of the later chapters where she's just musing something, and I'm like, girl, why don't you just ask the Quicksilver? And it's so funny that that literally turns out to be the actual answer, the easiest thing in the world. It's talking to you, just start talking back. But I'm like, girl, come on, just start talking to the stuff.
This is also the moment, I know we talked about this in the last episode, but this is also the moment where Saeris has that understanding of, wait, why can I understand you guys? Why can I read this? And they say, oh, you're speaking Old Fae. Madra has kept, or Common Fae has kept the Common Fae language in the human realm. So again, just that point of like connecting the worlds and how interconnected they really are, even though Saeris has no idea at this moment.
And we've said before that we like when an author gives a rationale for why they can speak the same language. I think that she could have easily left it at that and be like, oh, right, you're speaking that same language. But it's clear at the end of the book that Madra would have had a reason to continue that language because she is still connected to this realm. So I kind of like that it's that little extra piece of this is why you understand it. And it's important because your queen is still insane and in cahoots with the Fae world, and it's deeper than you actually think. So I think that was super smart writing.
So what are your theories about why Madra can live as long as she can? Because at first, your initial thought is, oh, well, she's in league with them, with the vampires and with Belicon, a Fae who live enormously long lives. But they also haven't talked for 1,000 years. So did they grant her some power? Like, I'm curious what your thoughts are there.
And I do like the fact that they say explicitly the Fae know she is human and do not know why she is as old as she is. And I think that's interesting. I think it has to do with, they say something, maybe you guys can remember it. It's in the very end of the book, something about the three of them in particular kind of almost form a whole.
The triumvirate.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder if it's simply being descendant from some perhaps prophecy that we have yet to really hear the details of that links their lives together. Because even Belicon, I think at the very end, maybe it was even Malcolm saying it when he stabbed, when Fisher stabbed Belicon. He's like, you really think you can kill him that easily? You have to kill all three of us to kill one of us, type of thing. So I'm wondering if somehow she's feeding,
like they've made like a blood oath potentially,
something like that, where she's feeding off their own immortality. Somehow their lives are linked. Although the only squirrely thing at the end I was a bit confused of is somehow she does kill Malcolm. I guess maybe you sever a head, you truly do kill somebody. So I thought, okay, well, he did die though. So, and she's still potentially immortal. We don't know. We don't know what happens with Madra after that happens, but there's got to be something there with the three of them, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I hadn't thought about the Belicon part of that triumvirate of like, yes, Belicon's old, but he took a fatal wound and still lived because the three of them are connected. So maybe that's why she's also connected. Okay, that makes sense. I like that explanation for that question.
Callie, do you have another theory, though?
I do. I think it's related. I think that something about, we talked that blood is very important. I think there is some type of feeding. I think that because Malcolm's a vampire, the most important, most powerful vampire, that there is something about his blood that they might have done, like maybe a blood oath, or maybe she feeds off him, or maybe something he did to Heron and she feeds off Heron, and that's how Heron also lives. I feel like there's something that was keeping her alive that has to do with Malcolm's blood. that Bella, I feel like Malcolm is kind of the head that helps give them both.
And they cut off the head.
And they cut off the head. And so now I feel like there's going to be more chaos in Brimstone because Malcolm is, he is like dead, right? Like, or
I think he's
in
dead.
theory.
I don't think he's coming back.
It's hard to come back from a severed head.
It is.
A lot of times it's no body, no dead. But, I mean, head gone, usually dead.
That's dead.
I think so.
I do have a question for you guys, and maybe you guys can help me puzzle this one out. When we're reading in this chapter, she talked about how when she plunged Solus, when Madra plunged Solus into the Quicksilver, it cut off all travel via the Quicksilver to all the realms. And at one point, one of them talks about scouting parties to various realms and implies that, it's not just scouting parties in Zul'Varan. We know there were Fae in Zul'Varan when the gates were closed, but they mentioned scouting parties in other realms as well. And it's almost as if they contradict themselves here. And I wanted to see if you guys kind of picked that up. It's like, were they only in Zul'Varan? Are there in other realms? Because then later Fisher talks about how, well, the Fae live long lives, so they wouldn't be dead, but clans would have killed them instead. So I'm like, okay, are we gonna travel to different realms now? Are we gonna go see clans? Are we going to rescue Fae trapped in other realms? So I feel like maybe she was leaving it open for that, but it was a little bit contradictory, and I was a little bit confused by that section.
I think so, only because in the ending chapters when Saeris is talking to Zareth, he makes a point to say, like, there's millions of realms out there. So why would he make that point if, obviously the Quicksilver is the connection between all these realms. I don't know, obviously we'll see them all, but I think that it's just a giant open world.
Yeah.
The other thing I just realized, I hadn't made this connection until I was just listening to you, but you said the clans were the volatile ones. Don't forget that the only other time we've heard the word clans is when we're talking about the witch clans.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. So we have different realms of witch clans potentially that people were stuck there? Maybe that's a reason why we haven't seen a lot of the witches, because they're potentially in a different realm.
That's interesting. That's a good point. I hadn't actually thought about that.
I hadn't either. When you said clans for some reason, it clicked of the
Balkidder clan.
So I guess the question is, now that the Quicksilver has been reawakened, why haven't we seen more travel from these people?
We do know that when the gates are opened, they're opened everywhere, but it is still dependent on an alchemist to open it. So if they're in those other realms and they don't have an alchemist, or they don't have an alchemist that knows how to activate the Quicksilver,
or they don't have a relic,
all of these things,
you can open it but can't travel through.
It makes a lot of sense why it wouldn't be just gateways are open.
So then the question is, how quickly will it take all the rest of these realms to figure out that they can?
And will Saeris start to recruit all these lost alchemists that are out there and train this new group of alchemists so that they can start to do all this work? Because we really think she's going to be the only alchemist?
No. Yeah. No. We know she's not.
Right? So,
wow. Like an alchemist army?
An alchemist college? I want to go to that college.
I think we're in the wrong series.
Kingfisher professor, I'll go.
I feel like this chapter is just chock full of like information, right?
Yeah.
So little tidbits. It is rude to ask a Fae about their age, we find out, but they give us their ages anyways because Saeris is curious. Everlane is 1,486 years old and Kingfisher is 1,733 years old. Wow, that's an age gap.
He's a man.
Okay, Lindsey.
Yes.
I need your scribe help.
Okay.
We're going to jump into next chapter.
Okay.
I found a date discrepancy, and I want you guys to help me riddle this one out.
Okay, I'm into this.
Find it. Where is it?
It's the next chapter. Previous chapter 10, we say, as you said, Kingfisher, he's 1,733 years old. He says, I am 10 years old when my father goes to Zilvarin, he is trapped there. When Solus is plunged into the Quicksilver, that's it. Belicon takes his mother as the new bride. World continues, okay? If that happened, we know that Carrion went with Fenrir, right?
Right.
At the very end of the book, Carrion says, I've known Saeris since she was 15 years old. I've known you since I was 1,086 years old. It's been roughly 9 to 10 years, right? Because she's in her early 20s. So Carrion is around 1,095 years old. If Fisher was 10, then that's 1,723 years. We've got 600 years of a date discrepancy. And it's bothering me.
Wait,
I need to
that
think
math
about
doesn't
this.
ask me. Yeah.
It doesn't map. That's
Hold
the
on.
problem.
Hold on, I need to think about this. Sarah says, oh, I've known you since I was 15. And he's like, well, I've known you since I was...
Since I was 1,086 years old. If Saeris was 15 and she's in her early 20s now, it's been 9 or 10 years, 8 years.
Yeah, there's years missing. Unless Carrion was just making a joke and like throwing out a number.
like,
Yeah, why wouldn't you just do the math?
Yeah, do the math. It says, no, my mother was married to a southern lord before she married my father. She had Fisher with her first husband. When Fisher was 10, the king sent his father on a mission to Zilvarin. He never returned. That's when the gateways were stilled. The king said that Fenrir, Fisher's father, was responsible for the Quicksilver stilling and declared him a traitor to the Fae.
okay, so here's my question. Are you thinking that her math is wrong?
I don't
Or are you
have a
thinking
theory.
there's something bigger to
No,
it?
I don't have a theory. I wonder if there's a true, like, maybe the author flubbed it. Maybe.
Right. And it's not that big of a deal and we're just
Yes.
reading too far.
Or my question is, does the math not mathing mean something? And I haven't figured out what it means. That's why I pose it here, because I'm like, the math is not mathing. What's up?
I feel like I need to noodle this.
That's why I said, Lindsey Scribe, help me out.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna need to noodle that.
Right.
We're gonna have to come.
Maybe
Okay,
let's do a bonus on this.
dear listeners, we will come back to this.
Yeah.
Do a bonus on this. Let us do some research here, because I think, again, to Catherine's point, is the math not mathing,
Or is there
is there a theory afoot that none of us have thought to think about?
What if Fenrir did come back, but Kingfisher didn't see him and he got Carrion and went back?
Or Carrion's lying.
All the thought.
Right, Carrion could be lying.
But why would you flippantly be like, why would you lie about being, they don't like talking about their age, so he's saying he's 700 years younger than he really is?
Do we know if Carrion has a blood oath? Can he lie? We don't know.
No, presumably, I want us to also research this, because I got the impression Carrion, when he was describing himself and his journey right after Fenrir brought him over, his almost like adopted mother, grandmother figure, right? He was clearly not a baby. He was sentient. He knew what was going on around him. So I always got the impression he was a teenager, roughly, when he came through. Still very young, but not an old fae. It doesn't explicitly say how old he was when he traveled through, but you at least know that he was not an infant because he knew what was going on around him.
No, wait, I do think they said that he was a baby.
So then...
Hold on, now that I'm thinking about this.
Either way, if he's only in 1,095, how do we
get
from there to 1723?
Okay.
It makes me wonder if Carrion in that moment was just kind of like flippantly being like, I've known you since I was 1,086. You know what I mean?
Picked
like
a number.
If it was just like me being like, oh, Kelly's laughed 47 times today. You know, like was that? But I need to noodle this.
Yeah, I agree.
I will noodle.
We'll do a bonus or a short or something.
Because either way, it's interesting.
One thing we did miss in the last chapter, I know I skipped ahead to the date discrepancy, but we cannot pass up the fact that she punched Fisher, and that was amazing. And I also love, because this is in the beginning of chapter 11, she describes how after she punched him, he took her over his shoulder, deposited her in her chamber, looked at her and said, "Bad human."
Oh, I loved that line. So I like to immersive read certain books, depending on who the audible narrator is, and anything that Anthony Palmini narrates. I am in. And he is Kingfisher, and the way that he puts her down and goes, Like, it was so good. It was so good.
But it is cool to see, though, that Kingfisher hands her a piece of the Quicksilver, right, and makes her hold it. And he's the one that straight up says, listen to it. She still doesn't really listen to it or communicate with it, but he says in the very beginning, listen to it. And also cool that he says, as long as I'm touching you, you're safe since I'm wearing a relic. I don't know that in other parts of the book, Saeris doesn't wear a relic when she's in the forge, does she?
There is no other relic for her to hold.
Right. So how is she touching the Quicksilver?
This is the first time she touches it.
But
in her hand.
This is the first time, but from here on out, when she's in the forge, is she not touching the Quicksilver ever?
She's melting it and transmuting it with metals
Yeah.
that are heated.
Okay.
He even makes the point of saying, human, you almost touched the burning hot forge.
That's right.
Yeah. So no, she's holding tools to do this. She's not physically touching it, but it does beg the question. It was hurting her for a second, and then she started listening to it. All of a sudden, it stops hurting her. He's holding her, and he's wearing a relic, but I wonder if it really would still burn her, and we don't know if she could truly touch it herself.
Yeah, I almost feel like because she's an alchemist, it makes you wonder if it wouldn't hurt her.
Although
eventually.
They did say a lot of them went insane. They went crazy. They died from doing it, but we know she's something more. So I want to know, can she touch it?
Well, and they also said that the second order of alchemists were the ones that died young and went crazy. And the second order
is the metal
was
workers.
The one that wanted to create and invent transmuting, which is what they call her.
Right.
Okay. There's some cool connections there. I'm not quite sure yet where they connect, but I feel like there's some really important things. Like, I kind of feel like Saeris eventually would be able to go through the Quicksilver or touch the Quicksilver somehow because she is an alchemist.
I actually agree with that point.
And I think maybe that's something we write down to talk about in our potential theories going into
Brimstone. Yeah.
See if it comes to light. We have a couple more books left in this specific series.
And following up from her punching him, I just like the little detail the next day that his lip was still swollen. So they might have long lives, but apparently they don't heal in an instant.
Or he doesn't want to heal it.
I think,
and they do heal quicker,
but it's not
instant. They still need some extra help when it's really bad.
We also hear, this is the first time that we hear the Quicksilver chanting Anarath More, which obviously we found out later means release us, which is the same thing that the Fae at Gilthry chant. So what is this connection here? We know that there's Quicksilver in the labyrinth, but there's Quicksilver in a ton of places in the world. So why is this one specifically important? Why does it call to her? Is it because of her connection to Kingfisher?
I have a theory.
Let's hear it.
I do too. I'm curious if we have similar ones. You go first, Katharine.
So my theory is that we know there's something between the Quicksilver and the gods. Either an extension of it, maybe a bit of their personality, maybe a physical way for the gods to enact their will in a physical plane, right? And I think that we know the god swords, the magic of them is gone, and we know the Quicksilver said the Fae are no longer worthy, and the god swords eventually come back only to Fae who the Quicksilver deem worthy to wield them, right? I wonder if the Quicksilver gods wanted her to go there because they want to enact their will on this triumvirate of evil and want to steer her there. They talk about, messing with fate, trying to steer things. And I think they did this. The Quicksilver spoke to her to get her there to fight this specific battle, fight this specific evil.
Smart.
That is my
That's
exact
so smart.
theory.
Yeah, that's so good.
I think they know. I think that Zareth has said, we tried to change the Fate's mind. We tried to change this. We tried to make this not happen, but we couldn't do it. I think the Quicksilver was like stepping in, like, they're going to find each other. She's going to save him. We need to bring her here. She needs to know these words Fisher needs to hear her say these words. This shit needs to go down. So I completely agree. That is exactly my theory.
And even in a more let's take it one step further. In my theory that the Quicksilver is actually the voice of the gods. We know that the gods, right, and we know that the gods have been gone for thousands of years. Are they trapped? Did they potentially not leave on purpose? Were they maybe forced out and trapped, and they're saying, release us, release us, release us?
That's a good thing, because you wonder, maybe by stilling the Quicksilver, when they say the gods left, they've been gone for thousands of years. Quicksilver has frozen the realms, traveled between the realms for thousands of years. Maybe the way the gods enact their powers in the world is through the Quicksilver. So maybe they were gone because it was frozen and they could not stop it.
But I think it's been longer than that, though, because Everlane, because Everlane and Kingfisher and all of them,
since before, way
it was
before
way
That's
before them.
And I think that the gods are going to be above the power of the Quicksilver. My gut just says, I don't think Quicksilver is going to prevent the gods from doing anything.
With Zareth, he talks a lot about the threads of fate. So either way, the thread of fate and how connected Saeris and Kingfisher are, despite everything that he's done to keep them apart, it's just showing another connection between Saeris and Kingfisher's thread of fate, right? That she's hearing these words. Kingfisher knows what the deeper connection of those words mean. So even if it's not a bigger theory to talk about, it just shows how powerful their connection is and how the fates just cannot keep them apart no matter what, right? So there you go. Interesting stuff.
So many things to think about. So getting back into chapter 11 now, we get a lot more information about the story of Kingfisher's mother and father. So Everlane tells Saeris that they share a mother. Her and Kingfisher share a mother. Her name was Adina. She was married to Finryn first. Finryn is Fisher's father. Then when Kingfisher was 10, King Bellicon sends Finryn on a mission to Zilvarin. He never comes back because the Quicksilver pool closes. Then Bellicon blames that fact that the Quicksilver pools, the gates are now closed, on Finryn. A year after they close, King Bellicon calls Kingfisher's mother, Adina, to the palace. She never met the king. He just calls her, bring all your assets, bring all your money with you, because she is going to marry him, and then use the money to support the war with Senesroth. So the question that I have for you all is, was that the only reason that he wanted to marry Fisher's mother? We know she was an oracle. So why set eyes on her specifically instead of somebody else? Is there something more there? What's your theory?
I mean, it says that he wanted it for money to
they
support
were
the war.
Really wealthy then.
They must have been really wealthy. Although, obviously, we see later on, we see Kalish and we see how big and grand it is. But I don't know that it was that opulent enough to support that the king would want to marry you for your wealth, or maybe it is just because she was an oracle. Maybe he saw a lot of power in that. I mean, you have to figure this is the time that he's making an alliance with Malcolm, with Madra. Maybe they saw power in her being an oracle.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, why choose her? Because didn't they say something about, babies being rare or something like that? And she's already had one kid, or am I remembering that correctly?
No, it's Talina, the healer, says, why, I know it's selfish for me to wish for more than one child because children are so rare. And Adina dies giving birth to Everlane.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's got to be either money or oracle power or something else. But those are kind of the only reasons why we see at this point.
I think it might be a mix of both. I'm also wondering, because is it Quicksilver or is it silver that they need to win the war?
Silver.
So I'm wondering if Kalish had an abundance of silver and King Bellicon just wanted to own control where all the silver was so that Stannis Roth was not defeated, if that was a part of it. I wonder if it was truly just their money. But remember, in the very beginning, King Bellicon has an oracle at his side. She's the one who comes up and says that whole thing about, oh, I have a vision, a prophecy about Kingfisher. So maybe he really is kind of obsessed with knowing the future, knowing what's going to happen. And we know that he clearly wants to live forever. He has his triumvirate with Malcolm. So maybe he's like
collecting oracles,
collecting them and needs to know and has like these theories that he needs to see through.
But wait.
Wait.
If you are a king,
okay,
who is playing both sides of the war, would you put an oracle on the throne next to you who could potentially suss out the fact that you're lying to your entire kingdom? Like, wouldn't you not want an oracle with you to help you hide that secret?
Unless, because she's the most powerful oracle and now she's your wife, if you get sense that she gets you, you're the king. You can kill whoever you want.
That's a good point, because if you know you have the powerful oracle at your fingertips, wouldn't you want that person to control so that your secrets cannot come out? Because if he has power himself that we perhaps just don't know about, it's kind of keep your enemy close type of situation here. It would
make sure she's not saying anything that you don't want her to say, because you would hear it right away and you can get rid of you can dispose of the threat.
Yeah, like the more
mafia action.
The more we talk about it, it makes a little bit more sense why he would want her. You get money and you get to control her from potentially spilling your secrets.
Maybe, but oracles also are typically like focused on the people around them and see the people that they're closest to. Like an oracle isn't sitting there oracleizing.
Oracling?
Oracling. I like oracling. We're going to keep oracling. Oracling about everybody ever in all of these realms, right? So by bringing that person closer to you, are you opening yourself up to bring out the truth?
I don't
know. I don't know what the answer there is.
Maybe he hated Finran so much that he was like, and I'm going to take your wife.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Oh, especially if he knew he took the heir to Zilvarin with him. It's almost like, well, you did that. I'm going to steal all your money, your lands, your estate.
Your heir is going to be miserable. I'm going to control him.
And I'm going to take your wife. He is vindictive enough.
I wonder if Bellicon knew that.
Because he's so...
The heir had gone through.
It's well known, since the rumor is...
No, he's not there.
The heir is there
and they say the heir might be in Zilvarin.
He is showy and vindictive enough, I could kind of just see him doing it.
Yeah, I'm going to take your wife, and I'm going to make your son's life miserable. He's not going to inherit whatever he was meant to inherit, because I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen.
There's like a lot there that I don't think I've thought about before. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm having a lot of first thoughts with all of this right now.
But that's kind of fun that we're doing it.
Heck yeah.
I love that. Finally. Because last time I was the one who was like, what the? Yeah.
So this is also the first glimpse that we have of Kingfisher perhaps having a little crush on Saeris, and even knowing that she is his mate at this point.
Right, he knows.
He comes to eat breakfast in her chambers. We see a little bit of his personality. He's a little bit more playful in this moment rather than always being broody, which is really like cute and fun to see. It's almost like he's trying to be broody to push her away, but he is still so much of himself that it's like hard to hide how playful he is.
He is so Kelly coded. It's ridiculous. Just so y'all know, that is my husband. Grumpy AF. I've never smiled a day in my life.
He said that to us last night. I've never smiled a day in my life.
Meanwhile, he is
giggling,
playful and giggly and a golden retriever. So Kingfisher.
And he made you laugh when he said that.
He did.
He did.
Laugh. Kingfisher, that is why Kingfisher is on a pedestal to me.
Okay, so question then, Callie. Because I feel like a lot of these, like, I am broody, so I'm not going to ever say anything, and you must read my mind to understand my thoughts. I don't get that sense from Kingfisher. He's broody, yes, but he's playful, he's talkative.
He gives info, too. He's like, oh, well, since Everlane is not going to give you the information that you want, ask some questions. Like, let's talk about this. So he's not so super secretive, and I like that about him. He's not like, no, I'm not going to tell you anything. Grumpy with a purpose, I think. And it's flirty. The grumpiness is flirty to me.
And it works because we see him point out to Saeris that he can tell when she's turned on. He says, careful human. And when he shows her his teeth, like he points, canines are out, he says, careful human, we Fae have an excellent sense of smell. You'd be amazed what we can scent floating on the air. And she's like, I was, and he's like, oh God, I was going to die of embarrassment.
Yep.
This moment had been fleeting. I hadn't even meant to think it. I despised Kingfisher. I was not attracted to him. I was not thinking about his tongue or his teeth.
Not thinking about
Okay.
At all.
Girl. Okay.
Sure.
I was a little bit mortified for her right then because he just calls her out on it. And I'm just like, oh my God, girl, you are already arguing with somebody who is way better at arguing than you are.
And then Lane comes in the room.
So
and
clearly she knows.
Tells Kingfisher that he needs to go take a bath because he smells so much like a brothel. And in reality, she's actually smelling Saeris being so turned on by Kingfisher's grumpy playfulness.
But he takes the fall for her. And so,
which is cute.
And
Golden Retriever.
We get more glimpse of his crush. Like, he's taking the fall for her. He's not going to let her be embarrassed like that. Like, he cares. He's starting to care, even though he doesn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cute. It's cute.
So
Love
cute.
it.
And then Saeris goes back to the library. We have a little bit more conversations with Saeris. I don't think anything groundbreaking that they talk about here, but it's a little bit more about the Quicksilver pools, how the magic of them work, that you basically just have to fix your intentions on where you want to go in order to transport yourself through the Quicksilver.
Just don't think about hydrogen. You might end up in the middle of a star.
Yeah. Who says it's happened?
And we do get from this chapter too that there are 4 known Quicksilver pools, or there's Quicksilver in 4 known places, and that is in Sanisroth, Galaria, Lycia, and Evelia. That's what we know right now.
Those are like the 4 major,
four main
regions.
Regions? I feel like region. I'm going to say region.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a good
region. Yeah.
So then, chapter 12, Fox. We meet Onyx for the first time. Obviously, the attraction between Quicksilver and Saeris is undeniable in this chapter. It really starts to ramp up here. It's also, we do learn more about Oathbound Fae, that Kingfisher cannot lie. And he points out, he's like, it's you humans, you creatures can lie whenever you want, but yet you're so fucking bad at it. Okay, Kingfisher, you just think you're the best.
I think Fae can just smell it, read it. I think they just have their senses are so high, which I kind of love.
Right. So then Kingfisher tells Saeris that he wants her to figure out how to control the Quicksilver so that they can make additional relics for Fae. Again, we go through the questions of like, why has no one written this down? Maybe it is, like we said before, because it ends up just being so easy that they didn't think that they needed to write it down. But here we are. So they're going to try.
But then Onyx enters the chat.
So
and these quotes are just so adorable because Onyx is in the forge and she's like, oh, what a cute little fox. And then she freaks out at first though, and he's like, what is wrong with you? It's a fox. God, I thought you were going to get your face torn off. And he's hung over while all of this is happening. And she's so funny. She's screaming her head off. And he's like, graceless fucking gods, humans, stop fucking yelling. I was laughing at all of this exchange while we get the fox.
The other thing that I'm curious about, it's not like it's a big deal to the plot, but it kind of adds to Kingfisher's charm. I don't know if you all think this, but I kind of think that he went out drinking and got that drunk and had a hangover because he was starting to feel things for his mate.
Yeah, for sure.
And I kind of think that's so cute. Like, he went out and was like, oh my God, to get drunk.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be messed up.
Absolutely. Next day, he comes to her chamber to have breakfast for her. He wants her. He doesn't want her, but he wants her.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we see a little, again, shameless attraction in this chapter. Let's give this a little quote real quick here. Gods, he was a sight to behold. Every line of him was art, with his full mouth and a faint shadow of stubble marking his jaw, his fascinating eyes, and all of his midnight black hair. It was hard not to look at him and ache. I had grown up in a pit of misery where people died more often than they lived. I hadn't seen many beautiful things in my short life, but of all the beautiful things I had seen, Fisher was the most beautiful of all.
Do you need us to fan you, Kelly?
Swoon.
Wow.
Swoon. Yes.
Wow.
So then Saeris asks Kingfisher if she can touch the relic to start to see if she can feel or sense any other metals in it, which I think is interesting because she's starting to accept the fact that she's an alchemist. She's starting to be like, oh yeah, I might be able to do this thing, where a couple chapters ago she was like, no, things move around me, but like that ain't me. I'm not taking accountability for that. So that's fun for me in her own character arc of like accepting who she is. She tries to work to bind the elements to the Quicksilver. She tries all these different things. She fails miserably every time. It chants, it curses at her in a way that feels like it is truly mocking her, which is very funny. I think this is where we started to see that the Quicksilver is really funny.
It starts to become a character.
It is absolutely a character. And yeah, the personality is so great. I love it. And
then
it's time for the first kiss, even though it's a farce, but it's so hot, real hot. So,
but it was like she still had power during the kiss, but he was like egging her on. He's like,
totally,
you can kiss me, like trying to be like, no, like really, really kiss me. Like I want you to kiss me. I won't do anything. Whatever you want to do, just kiss me. He's like so desperate at this point. It's great.
He's into her. He wants her. He is like, sure, I'll do it. I will literally sit here and not move if it means that you will kiss me. Like I promise, no touchy. I won't touch you.
Well, and so their kiss happens. We move into the next chapter, and very early into that, she has stolen his relic during the kiss, which she thinks it's a relic. It's not. It's actually just a ring. So my question is, when she went into this kiss at the end of chapter 12, was she doing it with the intention of, I'm going to take this ring, do you think? Or was she so turned on, but then had that moment of like, wait, my hand's right there, I can take it? Like, what do you think? Like, why did she go into the kiss?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Do you think she went into the kiss knowing, I'm going to distract him and take the ring?
I do, but I think she was also like, I'm going to enjoy it while it happens.
Right? I agree. I think that she probably was thinking through all the different ways that she could steal something, and she was like, well, this is an option and that would be fun for me, so I'm going to take that option. Like,
okay,
she probably could have done other things, but she's like, this is an excuse for me.
Right?
I mean, I would have.
You got to make your hands wander for a purpose.
Because I don't know.
You think she just was into it?
She just was into it. I think that you got this, like, she's sitting there saying like how gorgeous he is and how beautiful he is. And then he kind of like instigates her and is like, or you could kiss me. I wouldn't move a muscle. I'll sit right here. I feel like she was just drawn into him. And then maybe like had her hands on him and felt it, kind of thing. I don't know that.
The ring?
Well, no, that is called out. So
she felt it and it.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know, in my mind, I don't know that she went into it thinking like, oh, this is a good chance that I could take it. I think she was like pulled in through his magnetism and then maybe figured out that she could.
Pulled in through the bond and then was like, oh crap. Oh wait, while I'm here, might as well.
Exactly.
I like that theory.
Might as well steal.
Look, she's a thief. She is a thief. She's a pickpocket. It could have, in that moment, had her hands on him or whatever.
Felt it was like,
and just zooped it right up. Zooped it.
Zoop. Oracling and zooping.
Chapter 13, Duress.
She's stolen the ring, which she thinks is a relic. She has the intention of finding a Quicksilver pool because remember, 2 chapters ago, they confirmed that there was a Quicksilver pool in the palace,
Yep.
which she had to have come through anyway. So she knows there's one there. And we start to hear the Quicksilver actually talking to her. Another way.
The other way.
Right.
Follow us.
So, and she says like it's kind of disconcerting, but she's going to follow it and find the pool. So it's insistent. It pulls her towards it, urges her to step into it. And this language is interesting to me because she says it's almost like it pulls her like a physical hand. So there's definitely a connection between her as an alchemist and this Quicksilver pool, right? That's much bigger. It's like beckoning her, like it wants her in.
But wait, Fisher enters the chat and's like, are you insane? You were going to go through that pool and die, you stupid, stupid human.
Yeah, so Fisher enters the chat and he gives us a quote that Katharine, Lindsey, and I have been theorizing about for literal hours at this point, and we're only a couple of episodes into this deep dive. But he tells us only a person sealed to it can touch an active Alchemarian sword. So this is where we get that idea that maybe is Solace hers? Why is she able to touch Solace? Because it is an active sword.
Do we know for sure that Solace is an active sword at this point?
At this point.
Because later on, we see Solace light up.
We don't. It's reforged and lights up. Right? Because she reforges, right? What's the Lorith's
sword
first.
And then Carrion's. She doesn't reforge Solace.
I thought he just takes it and gives it to her.
Is it? But it lights up, and I thought she had to do something with it.
No, she doesn't reforge it.
I feel like it chose as.
Yeah, because I made a note. Because I make a note in my outlines later that it says that it lights up. Because remember, Kingfisher left it when he went through the pool to go to Sanus Roth, and then when she's battling with it, it lights up. And it does not say that it's angel's breath, but it lights up as if it's angel's breath. So the question is at this point, do we know that Solace is an active god sword or not? They say no, but there's been hints that Solace is still active. And especially something like this would easily explain that Solace is active and is hers by right because she can touch it and she shouldn't be able to touch it.
Right.
So maybe it is the only active one and they don't realize it.
And what sword does she touch and discover the whole you can only touch your sword? And
Kingfisher is Solace hers then because she can touch it.
Yes. I say so.
She touched Solace to open up the Quicksilver pool. So Solace has to be hers.
Has to be hers. So
in order for her to touch it.
Yeah. So it makes me wonder, is it hers because it's passing to her? Has it always been hers? And is it newly hers because Finran actually is dead? I know we had like mind-blowing, oh my god, what if Finran isn't dead moments in a couple episodes ago.
You don't have to be dead to pass your sword because Danya didn't die. But Danya's sword also wasn't active.
It wasn't forward and it was reforged.
I keep going, Kelly, because I think you're right. I think the whole Finran Elroy thing, I think he's described as old now, right? I truly think he bonded with Saeris while they're in the human realm.
Like passed it to her?
That is what I think happened.
And like it was almost like it was fully transferred
to her. He knows her metal secrets. We find that out in the very first couple of chapters. He knows he would know she is a fae.
Right.
If Elroy is Finran, which is what our theory is.
That theory is right.
So if he knows this, and he also knows her fate, because his oracle wife, he would have seen all of those things, his oracle, her drawings, he would have known it was Saeris she was drawing, then it makes sense. Yeah. He's friends with her. I'm going to pass on my sword to you. That's what I think he did.
But wouldn't Finran have only been able to do that if he was an alchemist?
No, it's a sword. Like he's passing on his sword. Same like Danya's father passed on his sword.
But the
Quicksilver has to choose.
Has to say that you're worthy.
I don't know. No, I mean, so a couple of things. So the first thing is the fact that you can still pass on a sword because the swords are all dormant right now. Danya got her sword from her father. It's dormant. As of right now.
So if it was actually dormant, Finran
Yes.
Finran / Elroy, whoever, could have passed it on.
Yes,
to her,
I think
no matter what. As a here's a thing that I pass on to my child.
Exactly. I do agree the Quicksilver then chose her and activated
Later.
itself. Yes.
So then is Nimmerel an active god sword?
They did say, they confirmed, yes, it is. It's the only one. There's a quote. They talk about how it was the only one left with power and it cost. They talk about the cost of that.
Yeah, that is true.
So then in this moment, is Saeris able to touch Solace because it's not an active god sword?
Or
And maybe it awakens later and claims her.
right.
But then it does again beg the question, why would Fisher bring it up in this moment? Only a person sealed to it can touch an active sword.
Well,
Why bother?
He's bringing up his sword. That quote is specific to she touched
to Nimmerel.
You
Yes.
can't touch Nimmerel, yes.
It's not to Solace.
Right, because it's active and you're not.
But either way, we all agree
Yes.
that by the end of the book, Solace awakens as a god sword
100%.
and chooses Saeris.
100%. And
Okay.
I think that
And it might not be hers now.
right.
I think it's hers now. I just don't think it's awake. It's a little bit...
It can't be hers if it's not awake.
No, it can. Remember, Danya inherited her father's sword,
Well,
right?
right.
She can
That's
touch the sword.
assuming that your
That's
Elroy
Right.
theory.
Right.
Although, actually, let's go back a second because now I'm just thinking about it a little bit more. Remember how Belicon would not touch Solace without a leather glove? There has to be something active about it for the fact that he would not even risk touching it when presumably all of the god swords, right, are inactive. So why wouldn't he have touched it with just his hand? We don't get an active example of anybody else attempting to touch Solace except for her. So we don't really get a confirmation of, is it really active at this point or not? But you got to think there's got to be something active because nobody else wants to touch it.
And technically, Solace could be active because Solace has been missing for 1,000 years.
Right.
So they think that Nimmerel is the only active sword, but technically Solace could be active and just have been gone for 1,000 years.
And even if our theory that I absolutely freaking love is wrong, that Elroy is not actually Finran, and Finran is, as they say in the book, he is dead, then this can all still be true because he died. The sword is now like kind of up for grabs and it passes on to her. The gods, the Quicksilver, choose her as the next person, which would make sense that it would choose the person that your son is fated to be mated with as the next person who like owns that god sword. So I think either way, that theory.
Yeah. I'm not convinced about the Elroy theory yet.
We got a lot of books to go, so
I know.
it's not a big deal because...
But it is super fun to think about in the larger context of what if. I do feel like he is alive or was alive past what the Fae thought, but I'm not convinced that it's Elroy, although it does connect.
There's really...
It does make a lot of sense.
It can make sense, which is why I think I love it, because it is just so... If that is true, it is just so much fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like if I was a betting woman, I'd be like, no, it's not him. But I don't know. It just, there's so many ways.
It's fun.
This is it. It's so fun that I'm like, this is it. I believe it and I'm sticking to it.
And we have so many theories and we're in book 1 of 5. We have so much we don't even know. And it'll be fun when we look back on this episode and we're like, we were so stupid.
So wrong.
Or so right.
Elroy. Right.
So now is the time when Kingfisher says, okay, fine, I get it. All you care about is your brother. I'm going to go try to get him. Keyword here, being try. Saeris really does not quite understand yet about the power of these blood oaths and what they mean and how you have to be very specific with a Fae in your wording. She will obviously learn that lesson as we go, but she's not there yet. And so she says, fine, I agree to it. And he slips through.
Yes, gods, I understand.
Yeah.
Were you guys screaming in your head at this time, being like, Fae 101, devil in the details, pay attention to the wording, Fae?
Absolutely.
Yes. So I was like, wait, what does she agree? Because the fact that he was like, you're sure you understand that you are bound to this. I didn't read it. I missed try to get your brother. I miss that language. What I was reading it, I was like, you have to help in any way that he asks and do as you're told. Like, you know that he is going to be able to compel you, right?
Obey?
In fantasy worlds, yes, sir. In real life,
Anyway,
you said what to me? No, I'm a big girl.
but absolutely, Faye is trickery. All of us who have read
Yes.
fantasy are like, there's got to be something afoot
Yes.
here.
Yes, we are the people screaming in the back of the horror movie, like, do not open that door.
Yeah, don't run down that hallway.
Go downstairs. Why are you going upstairs?
Yeah, exactly. For sure. So Sarah's, he's like, I'll be back in about an hour. And I do think it's funny that she's like, I don't really know how much time has passed. She like names the fox Onyx in this moment.
Because of his ears, right? He has little black tips on his ears.
White with black
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a
Cute.
snow fox,
Yes.
right? So he's white with black tips.
And his eyes. I think she.
Yeah, it's his little eyes. Yeah.
Do you think it's interesting? We've talked about now 2 black substances, onyx and obsidian.
He's a shadow daddy.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about Brimstone, which we know is the name of the next book, Brimstone is very dark. It kind of has that same feeling as the terms obsidian, onyx, brimstone, all kind of like really dark substances.
Mm-hmm. And that like evil connotation too.
For
right?
sure.
You mean like
fire and brimstone?
like almost like a black plague upon the land?
100%.
Yeah.
And I have to just say, this is not my brother Fisher. This is Carrion fucking Swift.
Carrion fucking Swift.
I love
CFS. The best.
CFS. Wait, that's so good.
CF and S.
but in a good way.
Yes, in a really good way.
Dear Callie Hart, I would like
Text
this scene written as a bonus chapter because Kingfisher saying, I love, it's gotta be such a fun and really important scene that we completely miss out on
When they meet.
when he brings him back, like when he goes into Zelvarin and
they
goes and
interact.
gets Carrion. I feel like we need a whole bonus chapter here. I love this. He says 50 trained guards and a unit of archers armed with iron-tipped arrows. I had to fight my way out of there, cross that scorched, disease-ridden shithole you're so desperate to get back to. Find your brother, then get back across the city, back into Madra's palace, back into that cursed hall, and then back into the Quicksilver in under an hour. I did not have time to interview the prick. Can we have that as a bonus chapter? And then, now, will this one do or not? I hate this fucking place. I went there for you. I got stabbed 7 times in various parts of my body for you. This prick said he was Hayden. His blood said he was Hayden. I did what I said I was going to do. Now move. We're getting the hell out of
Will this one do? I love that.
This one too.
it. So great. Like, I just imagine him in that moment being like, I did this and then I did this. Like, that's a lot of shit. 50 trained guards.
Yes.
With archers. He fights all of them, every one of them, goes and finds Carrion. Like, this has to be a bonus chapter at some point.
I agree with you. And I have a theory. So we just talked about how Fae are really good at not lying and using trickery and their words very specifically to not be able to lie. He said, I tried to get your brother. I didn't have time to interview the prick. Those are 2 separate sentences. He didn't say, I didn't know that this wasn't him. He said, he told me he was your brother. What if Carrie was like, yeah, sure, I'm Hayden. And
He did. Carrion said that he said I was Hayden.
Kingfisher knew that he wasn't and knew that he was Carrion Swift and knew that he was the heir. And Carrion was like, don't worry, Hayden's good. You need to bring me back. Like, what if they were in cahoots the whole time? Or do you not think so?
No, I don't think
don't think
so. I think it's fun to think about, but it also does. I think we brought this up earlier. It means Carrion is not a blood oath fae. He lied.
That's true. He can lie.
He said, I am Hayden.
But that
in
makes
order to
sense.
protect Hayden.
It was almost like a rite of age passage to
Right,
do that.
he wasn't there. That's true.
Yeah.
He was a
Deny-
baby.
Yeah, a baby. No.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I think you're right. But how fun would it be if it was like, oh, fuck, it's Carrion fucking Swift. I'm bringing you back because we need you. because we know what the broad thing is.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we would have found out in this book. He tells Sarah so much and gives her so much information. I feel like that would have come out.
Okay. All right. I'm
Personally.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
So when he found Carrion, though, for a little second, I was like, oh God, is Carrion somehow her brother? Did she have sex with her brother? Ew. I did not. I did, because I was like, wait, is that why he found Carrion? Like, please tell me that's not
that's awful.
Ew. That was
No,
what
I
first
immediately knew
thought.
that it was because they had done the deed. And
And he could smell it off.
Whoa, pause. You knew immediately at this juncture of this chapter that the reason that Kingfisher found Carrion is because he still smelled like her. They haven't said that at this juncture.
Oh no, I feel like
in your brain thinking, oh, it's because they had sex.
I feel like I
talked about it so much in the previous chapter with how embarrassed he was. Like they had just talked about that, and I was like, "Why?" He was like, "Yeah, I followed the scent, the blood scent," and I was like, "Oh, they've done it.
Yeah,
that's why."
I feel like I figured that out too.
I did it, and I was like, "Oh God, please don't let it be someone I had sex with him."
That's my brother.
That's my brother. I did not go there.
I'm so glad it didn't turn out to be that, but I had like a split second before we got into later chapters, and I was like,
so it is the lesson here about Saeris. Do you think in this moment Kingfisher is trying to give her a lesson about blood oaths and their power, or do you think that he was just like, it was in the moment, it was quick kind of thing, or was he trying to give her a bigger lesson here? Because he does point it out to her, you know, you have to take better care. It's so stupid. Why would you agree to this? You agreed to it.
Yeah.
Was he trying to teach her something bigger? Because obviously, like, the conversation of blood oaths and blood pacts come into play later on, and their importance and how you have to be really careful. I wonder if Kingfisher was trying to teach her a lesson in this moment, or if he was just like,
yeah. I didn't think about it until you just said it. Because the way I read it was, she's annoying him. He's mad that she keeps trying to escape. He sees that she's not going to stop until she gets her brother. He cares about her because she's his mate, and he knows that, and he wants to make her happy, but also is like, we have bigger fish to fry, and I need you to not be thinking about this. So he's like, I'll just fricking go and try to get him. That's how I read it. But now that you're saying that, I'm like, maybe it was a little bit of the annoyance and, okay, you need to learn this, and we're going to teach you because I'm going to say what I need to say and you're going to learn. So,
but I mean, he also knew what was going to come next. They had to leave. So I wouldn't put him past him to have taken advantage of an oath like that to simply get her to follow him.
That's true.
Where they need to go. I absolutely think that he did it intentionally.
Because she's ornery and she's going to be like, no,
Yeah,
don't do that.
she's not going to leave.
So you think that they leave after this? You think he had that planned?
I think it was a plan of the moment. I'm going to take advantage of this. I can use this. Did I think he planned it like weeks and days ahead of time? No, but I think he was like, I can take advantage of this. I'm going to need her to leave after this happens. So,
and now we have this extra human. We can't just sit around the palace with him like it's time to leave with this
Where
guy.
Where this guy come from?
He drapes him over his horse. And I love it that Kingfisher and Renfis have a meeting spot. Like, what kind of shit do you have to have gone through in your life that you have a meeting spot with your BFF to get the fuck out of the palace if you need it?
Like, attractive too? I'm like, you have a meeting spot?
They have a plan.
110-year-old meeting place.
I mean, yeah, right? It's got to be at least 110
It reminds me of like, I know a guy. It's like, I know a place.
Now, granted, Kingfisher and Renfis are very smart, strategic warrior people, right? So, I mean, Renfis is the general of an army that's been fighting for thousands of years, right? Obviously, like, you've got to have some strategy there.
Backup plan.
Right. But
a rendezvous point always.
If you and your BFF have a tavern that you're going to meet at if shit goes down.
Could we have that? Could we have like a...
It's your house.
It's okay. It's here. It's up here.
Miss Kelly and Rigatoni's house.
Miss Kelly and Rigatoni's house. We'll tell you all of that.
We'll tell you. That's a side story. That's really cute. So imagine Carrion slung over Kingfisher's shoulders, being carried out.
I picture his
Puts
head
on a
like
horse.
hitting the
Yeah.
horse's ass constantly,
Yeah.
which makes me laugh. Like,
And I know it's not until the next set of chapters, so next episode, but how long is Carrion unconscious for? Because it's a really long time. Like, Kingfisher had to have knocked him out for him to travel this far.
Or because he traveled through the Quicksilver himself. Because remember, Saeris was also
Saeris
knocked
was
out
out.
by going through the Quicksilver. I wonder if it's simply like...
that's true.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's
the energy
true.
drain on
Yeah,
him.
I don't know. I'm just...
Maybe a mix of both.
Maybe, yeah. I hadn't thought about it until just now, and I was like, oh.
Carrion also sleeps a lot.
He does sleep a lot.
Remember, he sleeps through an entire battle later on in the book.
You would think
He's like, oh, I was asleep in the forge. Sorry, guys.
if they need to sleep, I guess they do need to sleep.
They sleep.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah, because Kingfisher wakes up from nightmares.
That's true. That's true.
They are beings. Beings have to sleep.
They are beings too, Kelly.
They are beings too.
One thing, Onyx is still with her.
Yes.
And he's like,
She's
what's an
adopted him.
Onyx?
What's an Onyx?
What's an Onyx? She's now brought Onyx with her on this journey. The fox is still there. Kingfisher is still like, why is it here?
I'm glad she has a pet.
Whatever.
Me too. And I kind of love when she says, I don't care about food and water. I care about Onyx. To me, that shows like I've been through shit. I have survived really poor conditions. Guess what matters to me? Companionship. I need my people. I need love. I need comfort. And Onyx is my comfort. Onyx is my friend. I'm not going to turn my back on this cute, adorable thing that I now care for. To me, it shows that she like needs to exude her love to people. She needs to take care of people, which I kind of like.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't have Hayden, so she needs her fox, right?
Aww.
Love it.
I mean, she has. You're right. She's cared for Hayden their entire lives. She gave up a lot in order to basically raise her brother. Now, thinking her brother was going to come back to her and doesn't, she needs something else to take care of.
She does. She needs a pet. I am very excited. I know it's the next couple chapters, but in the next episode, I cannot wait to talk about the scene at the meeting place at the tavern, because I think that is when I really started to love Renfis and Kingfisher, and we'll talk more about that. But I just wanted to tease that because it's one of my favorite underrated chapters in the book.
I would agree.
I think you just like their friendship.
Their friendship, their presence, and it's the first time I think that we start to see that they have a soft side, maybe is the word, that they care and they're not just these warriors. I go to war, I kill people, I do evil things. And it's like a characterization arc that starts in this next set of chapters.
Yeah, so, massive character development.
Yes, I'm excited about that for next time.
I love it.
Well, that's a wrap on chapters 10 through 14 of Quicksilver. Thank you guys so much for joining us for book club this week. Next week, we will be covering chapters 15 through 19. So be sure to check us out for our next Fantasy Friday. Happy reading!
Bye! Bye!